Hey, Mitch.
Oh, hey, Ed, what's going on, man?
Hey, I was just thinking about that, classic science fiction movie from the 1970s.
Oh, Star Wars, nothing like it.
No. The one with the, really cute two droids.
Yes, Star Wars, Ed.
No. And those amazing visual effects.
Gonna say Star Wars.
No. And, the score by that amazing composer.
Star Wars?
No, the Black Hole, 1979's Black
Oh,
Hole.
it's so funny you say that. I was just reading this vintage comic book all about the black hole. I just found it at
Ah,
the comic stuff.
hey,
Yeah.
would you mind if Max had a look at that?
Okay.
Yeah, Maximilian, come on.
Hey. It was a collectible.
Let's just start the show. Hi, this is Ed Dollister,
And this is Mitch Halleck.
and welcome to another exciting episode of Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. If it's your first time here, thanks so much for joining us. If you are a regular viewer, thanks for coming back. Hey, Mitch, before we start today's topic, if you are new to Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure, how can you find out a little bit more about our show and what we have in our library?
Oh, Ed, is it easy as falling into a giant gravity wall that sucks light out of the universe. All you got to do is press the button right down there and subscribe to the Mitch and Ed show. And why not hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when Ed and I go on another excellent adventure. And for the heck of it, hit the like button because it makes us feel all warm and fuzzy inside, just like we were inside the black hole.
That's right. And we are talking about that cult class. I suppose it's a minor cult classic from 1979. Now, I've said it's sort of like Disney's answer to Star Wars, and that's sort of correct. But I've got to say that it actually was in development well before Star Wars had come out. It was originally called Space Probe 1, and they were Disney was sort of looking to do not to cash in, but to, I suppose, ride the wave, no pun
Yeah.
intended, of the disaster movies like the Poseidon Adventure and Earthquake and
Oh,
films like that. So it was really
okay.
going to be sort of like a sort of a disaster movie in space, but with a bit more of a family Disney sort of bent. And then obviously 1977 came along, Star Wars came along, and everyone, it had been in development for quite a while. They couldn't figure out a script. And then Star Wars came, and everyone's going, hey, hang on, maybe we should re-examine this a little bit more. Were you in the cinemas in 1979 seeing The Black Hole?
You know what? I have to admit, I skipped this movie when it came out.
Really?
Wow, wow, wow. You know why? I wasn't a big review reader back then, but word on the street, on the street, like
Yep.
Huggy Bear, it was saying that it wasn't a good movie because I remember 1979. You're right. We just came through the Star Wars. We just came through the Close
Superman.
Encounters, Superman. Yep. I mean, we're talking epic films that last that you're still talking about. I still watch, but the Black Hole, Disney had a certain reputation back then where they would make these family movies and you kind of, well, maybe that's what I was like 12 years old, getting a little older. And when you heard the word Disney, you thought of these sappy, saccharine filled, happy movies, maybe the Computer Wore Tennis Shoe with Kurt Russell or the Shaggy DA or Escape to Witch Mountain. It was those type of adventure movies, which are good when you're like 8 or 9 years old, but I'm more sophisticated. I'm about to become a teenager, and the thought of going to see a Disney movie, and I do believe it's rated G as well.
It wasn't actually.
It
In
wasn't.
fact,
I was going to say because I was like, oh come on, I'm not a kid. I'm not going to go
so
see a
what that
G.
was, so you're absolutely right, and I think a lot of people probably maybe passed it by because of that, but it was actually Disney's first PG movie.
Really?
It
I
was,
did.
and it didn't. In a lot of the advertising, it sort of actually didn't have Like it wasn't, upfront Walt Disney Presents or anything like that. It wasn't,
No,
it was
no.
previous to Touchstone Films and
Yeah,
things
they
like
didn't.
that,
Yeah,
Disney's sort of more adult arm. But it was the first PG-13, PG movie because
PG. Yeah,
because Ernest Borgnine's character Harry Booth, would say damn and hell
yeah, he
and
did.
all these
Yeah,
sort
he
of
did.
things. And spoiler, the death of Alex Durant was pretty graphic, even though you didn't see it. It's the reaction of
Right,
Anthony
right,
Perkins. So
right.
it actually, they were trying to make it a bit more of a mature film, but I think the problem with the Black Hole was it's still, so people had obviously seen Star Wars, and that was like a whole new way to see
Yeah, yeah,
science
yeah, yeah,
fiction.
yeah. Yeah,
This sort of had its foot in both camps. It had some amazing visual effects
yeah.
and a great score by John Barry from he did all the, well, not
James
all of
Bond.
them, the James Bond movies and
Yeah,
everything like that.
yeah, yeah.
But it still had a foot in the old style Disney films, and it's very
I was
close
gonna
to 20,000
what?
Leagues Under the
I
Sea.
was gonna say exactly that's what I was thinking of when I saw this because okay, so I skipped it back in this late 79. Another big movie that came out around 79 was I think Meteor came out then.
That was 1979, yes.
Yeah, so that was a disaster movie, not like box office wise, but I think it was. But and Star Trek the motion picture came out. So
So,
there was a lot of big space epics around there
yep,
and it wasn't like a bazillion multiplexes like now. So you'd go to the movie theater and whatever was making money would play for months. And
yes.
in Black Hole, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking right. They did make a lot of money, so I don't think they kept it in the theaters for a while. They kind of moved it
It
off to the
didn't,
drive-ins
yeah.
and the second run theaters.
It came out December 21st, I think it
Oh, it was a
was.
Christmas movie.
Yeah, around that time. 2 weeks prior to that was Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Yeah,
And Star Trek
yeah.
the Motion Picture, again, whatever you think about it, it didn't do as well as Star Wars, but it did pretty
It
well,
made money.
obviously.
It was the
Um,
big Christmas release. Yeah,
so that was already out in cinemas. Then came along the Black Hole. I remember seeing the Black Hole in cinemas with my mum. Took me to see
yeah,
it, and I really enjoyed it because, oh look, maybe I'm not as sophisticated as you, Mitch. I'm also just a few years younger,
yes,
but for me, in between Superman the movie,
yeah.
Star Trek, and
And
then
the Empire
I know
Strikes Back
Empire was coming out, so I really enjoyed it, and I didn't
and
mind
Flash
this.
Gordon was coming out in a
Flash
couple
Gordon,
months too.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. So I didn't really mind the slower pace of
it's
the
definitely
film.
slower pace. Yeah,
Yeah. And you're right. It didn't do, like, I think it actually made money. It cost
it did.
it was Disney's most expensive film
Oh
up
yeah.
to that point. It cost $20 million to make. When you think
Wow.
how much did Star Wars cost?
20
Seven
million.
and a half million, wasn't it? Or was it
Oh,
14
I'm thinking
million?
Empire was 20 million. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
So, but
yeah, you're right.
it was significantly cheaper.
Yeah.
But it did make at the US box office $35.8 million.
Did
So
it really?
So it
Wow.
actually did okay, and I don't know what it did internationally, but it
No.
made its money back. I know that they spent about $5 or $6 million in advertising,
Mm.
and yeah, so they didn't get a great return for their money, but they did make a profit.
Mm.
And it did leave cinemas pretty quickly. In fact, I think it was they put it out on video cassette like 1980 or 81. So
It
it
must have
was
been the early days of video cassettes. I'll tell you, going back to the thing, the other reason why I don't think I wanted to see it was the cast wasn't, conducive to a younger crowd because I'd known all those actors in there. Actually, I could tell you a story about Ernest Borgnine, who was a friend of my grandfather's right here in Connecticut.
of
It's a
course he
true story.
was.
No, he grew. He was born and raised in Hamden, Connecticut, which is the town next to New Haven. And my granddad knew him when they were in the 30s, and then they went to the Merchant Marines, and it's on the whole story. Anyway, he's a local hero, Ernest Borgnine. But the rest of the cast, you've got Anthony Perkins, who we knew
Yes,
from
who
Psycho.
plays Dr. Durant, who's this sort of naive, I think,
Yeah,
scientist. Robert Forster, who Dan Holland,
I
who
was gonna
was
say,
probably
yeah,
his biggest film to date at that point.
yep. He was more of a gruff, like cop kind of guy, and then he's
Yes.
in this movie. And the actress that plays the female
So
lead,
you had Kate McRae, who was Yvette Mimieux, Mimo or Mimieux. My
she
French is
just
very.
passed away. Yeah,
So, oh, did she?
yeah. Yvette Mimieux just died like about a month ago.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. So,
No, that's as
um,
soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
well, I know that she was her character was originally going to be played by Jennifer O'Neill, and Jennifer O'Neill was known for
Oh,
her, beautiful hair. And they
yeah,
decided
yeah, yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't have when they're doing a lot of zero G in the black hole.
You
So
don't
what they
want
do,
hair
they wanted
flying
to,
around. Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
obviously well before CG.
And
So
isn't
they
it
decided
Maximilian?
So
Go
they
ahead.
decided to cut her hair. So she goes, okay, I'll cut my hair. They got her private hairstylist in, who was Vidal Sassoon, if you've ever used
Get
Vidal
out.
Sassoon. Yep. So they're cutting her hair and everything, and they're drinking and all this, and her hair looks fantastic. She leaves. She's had
Yeah.
too much to drink. She has a car accident.
Oh
And
no.
as a result, she can't film the black hole. So they have to
Really?
Yvette Mimieux, and he says, "Yeah, I'll cut my hair," and that's how she's playing
I
that
did
part.
not know that. And is
Yep.
it Maximilian Schell as the bad
There's
guy?
Maximilian Schell as Dr. Hans Reinhardt, and you know what's
Yes.
interesting? In all my research, I can't find. Isn't it odd that his name is Maximilian, and his robot
Oh, the robot.
is
Yeah, I just put
Maximilian?
that. Yeah.
But I haven't seen any link as to why or if that was the case prior to.
Well, and who's the other guy?
We've got Joseph Bottoms, who plays
Joe Bottoms
Charlie
is Timothy
Pizer. Yeah.
Bottoms. Timothy Bottoms' brother,
Yes.
who I remember Timothy Bottoms from a movie called Roller Coaster,
With the
which was about
Sparks doing
huh?
the music. Yes. And that's not a bad movie.
Roller Coaster?
Yeah.
About the guy blowing everything,
Yeah.
starring my co-star from the film Made for Each Other, George Siegel.
Yes.
I was in a movie with him.
There you go.
Unlike you and Guy Pearce, I'm actually in scenes with this guy. But anyway, yeah, that's Timothy Bottom's older brother. I did
Yeah.
not know that. He looked familiar. And then I'm going to throw this out there because, again, I'm going to disappoint you. I only watched this a couple years ago when I got Disney Plus. I literally went through 40 years of not watching the
Wow.
black hole. I knew of it. I knew what the stories. I knew the robots' names. I knew the kind of what happened in it, but I never wanted to sit through it. And then when I was surprised when I did watch it, because on Disney Plus, just like Star Trek: The Motion Picture,
Yes.
it begins with an overture, which was when you went to the movies. I mean, you don't see it anymore, but you went to the movies, you bought your ticket, you sat down, and when the feature presentation started, for a few minutes before the film, and I think they did this with Fantasia when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
Disney or whatever, the movie studio, it's just a blank screen,
Yes.
and it's just an orchestra, playing the music, the theme or something, and that's what was on the black hole. Even now on Disney Plus, when you put it on, you
You're
just
right.
see this
And
stuff.
I wonder
Yeah.
how many people sit down to watch the black hole and they go, "Oh, damn it, my TV's broken," and they're trying to
Yeah,
fix up their
yeah.
AV. So
No,
yeah,
but I
that was the
remember the
last one to
black
do
hole.
it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and the score by John Barry, that was actually the very first film score to be recorded digitally back in 1970.
Really? Way back then? 1979? For some reason, I guess because it was so close to the holiday, I always think of this as a 1980 release, this
Okay,
film.
yeah.
Oh, that came out in 1980. But you're right, it was on the cusp of 79.
It
And the
certainly
other
was.
thing,
Yeah.
Mr. Research, is the voice of Vincent Roddy McDowell?
It certainly is. So Roddy,
I thought so. I was like, I know that voice.
it's
but I didn't-
uncredited. And
That's why I couldn't tell. I'm looking at the credits going, it doesn't say.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I'm pretty sure it's
so
Roddy
you got the
McDowell.
two robots, which are very
Oh, who's the country bumpkin voice? That was annoying.
Slim Pickens.
Wow, Slim Pickens, who just is going to be in, oh my goodness, 1941, which was another Christmas movie that I did
From
go see.
1979. There you go. Yes,
That was a 79 movie as well.
it was indeed.
And you know what's so funny? I went to go see that in the cinema, and I sat through 1941 twice.
Wow. Okay.
It was a good
Well, let
movie.
me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going
That was
to.
that was a busy Christmas
It
season.
was. It was a good Christmas, wasn't it?
I'm
What I'm
telling
going to do, my rating the movies. Okay. So let's see what they say about the black hole. Let's see if you agree. Okay, the Disney Studios joined Hollywood's space race with this $20 million job, which unashamedly rips off Star Wars and other sci-fi adventures. The comic book plot has Shell as a mad scientist who commands a renegade spaceship on the edge of a mysterious black hole, the doorway to eternity. Two friendly robots, which resemble floating fire plugs, have the best lines and upstage the human characters. There's so little imagination here that it's hard to believe this is a Disney project. Also stars Yvette Mimieux and Ernest Borgnine. Director, Gary Nelson. And Gary Nelson directed Freaky Friday.
Oh, I liked Freaky
Yeah,
Friday
me
with
too.
Rob Crane, I believe.
I'm
Seen
trying to
Freaky
remember.
Friday?
And it
Robert
had Jodie Foster in it, that's for sure.
Jodie Foster in it.
Um,
Oh, is that when they switch places?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
So it only got 2 stars. Now I would disagree with that. As a again, it's a slower movie, and I think the problem is
slow.
people going in expecting Star Wars would be disappointed.
Correct.
But
Correct. That
there
was
are
me.
there are some
I was
fantastic.
disappointed.
Yeah,
I admit I fell asleep during this movie when I watched it, and I had
yeah.
to go back and watch it. And in fact, I watched it just before we recorded last night. I fell asleep again. It puts me out, man. I don't know what
Well,
it is. It's like
I've got to say the visual effects are really good. They got Harrison
the visual
Ellishaw
effects
out
are
of
good.
out
Yes.
of retirement, and he did all the production design. There's some really great matte paintings. If any film is due for like a 4K
Yeah.
re-release, I think it would be this. And if they could just clean up some of the, you know, when they're doing like the optical printing, so you get a bit of degradation when you got,
Yeah.
if they got rid of some of the just the lines around the
The matte
actors.
lines. Yeah.
But the visual effects are fantastic, and I still love that scene, the famous scene where they're running across the bridge, and it
With the
makes no sense.
fireball.
But the asteroid or the meteor,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
call it meteorite, but it's actually a meteor because a meteorite is when it hits. But the
Small.
meteor going down that tunnel,
It looks like Indiana Jones.
it's fantastic.
No,
So
I'll
there's-
give you that. When I was watching, that did stick out in my mind. I go, well, that was a pretty damn good effect, because you see this giant ball of fire rolling towards them as they're going across. I'm like, oh. But you know what? I'm going to tell you some of the problems that I thought with the movie is one, the plot is kind of hard to figure out. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I'm like, okay, wait a second. He wants to go into the black hole because he
Yes.
believes that he's gonna go to the
another
afterlife?
dimension, or
The other dimension. Or, yeah, it was a little like unclear. I mean, God knows what, if you're a little kid, like 7 or 8, you would probably like, and you were just waiting for the robots to come on. And then the other bit was like the Ernie Borgnine character. He was kind of like this rogue pirate junk dealer in it for himself type of thing. And
yeah, he was a bit of a shady journalist,
Yeah,
you
he was a
know,
shady
and
jerk. yeah. And when he dies, spoiler alert, when he gets killed, was he
because
trying?
he's trying to escape, because he
Trying to
fakes
get out of
he
there, yeah.
escapes, he feigns being shot,
Yeah.
or broken his leg, so he goes back to the Palomino, and tries to escape. And of course,
But he gets-
Reinhardt has Maximilian,
Yeah.
that fantastic design of the robot Maximilian.
Yes.
And he blows up, as we said, the famous scene with Anthony Perkins being killed
shredded.
by
Yeah.
Maximilian.
Another one. Come on, a little blood would have helped, because I'm watching it going, did he just get like a buzzsaw thing through his chest and die? But
did.
they just kind of off camera, no blood. I mean, it's bloodless.
No, but they just focus on his reaction, and
Yeah,
I
it's
think
like-
his reaction is pretty
graphic.
good. And
Yeah,
then of
and
course you find out that Hans Reinhardt is actually he's gone insane. The crew, all those robots are actually the crew members.
Yeah, that was a creepy reveal. Like when they
Yes.
go over, and it's funny Anthony Perkins is there, because I'm thinking of the whole mom in Psycho bit. When they pull the mask off, he's like, I kept them alive. This is how they are. And they're all like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's the crew. They're like mummified zombies that are running the
Yes.
ship. The ship itself. Now it's funny when
Yeah,
you said
the
matte painting.
Cygnus.
The Cygnus. Yeah, I kept thinking, what was all those so many little squares and dials and buttons and stuff? It was insane. The amount of, like, Star Wars is mostly gray and metal with a couple white lights and red lights. It's
Yeah, it
very
looked like a stained glass window, didn't it?
exactly. There was so much color going on. If they ever did a 4K release, my God, your eyes would fall apart. Because even now, even watching it on Disney Plus, which is a pretty good transfer of it, I'm just like, Jesus, imagine how this looked in the theaters on a big screen.
It
when
was
you
that
look-
first reveal of them, and you've got all
yeah.
the robots working up
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's huge. It looks
Right.
absolutely huge, and it is, partly one of those fantastic Harrison Ellenshaw matte paintings,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, it looks pretty good. And yeah, the
Now,
production design is great.
did this inspire Space Mountain, the Disney ride, at all? Because there's elements of it when they're shooting through like a tunnel, and I'm like, my God, I've seen this before. I go, wait a minute. When you go inside Space Mountain, it's kind of like that effect at one point when
So I believe they did they didn't do like you know, they do what is it? I don't know what Space Mountain. There's a Halloween sort of layover that they do of that. I know that they did do some sort of very brief cross promotion with images from the black hole either on TV screens or something like that
oh,
for Space Mountain, but that's as far as it went. But it could have, because it
I don't
wasn't
know. Just wondering. I don't know. And I kept getting the vibe of the Captain Nemo with this thing because I did see
yes.
that as a kid. I kept thinking he was like the crazy captain who was, instead of going after
Yeah, and
the
his ship was the
ship.
Cygnus was a submarine, you know,
Yeah,
essentially, you know, just on the
definitely
cusp
felt
was
like that movie. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. And then of course, you know, I suppose the action takes a little while to get to it. And once it hits the
Yeah.
last 20 minutes, you know, there's a lot of
Yeah.
action with
Yeah. It
the
kicks in. But
asteroids,
before
things
that,
happening.
yeah.
Um, I like that line where he actually says to Dr. Kate about, you know, save me from, you know, Maximilian. He's terrified of the actual
Right.
robot
Right.
himself.
Right.
You know, he has a moment of clarity. And then they obviously head into the black hole. There's the
Yeah.
asteroids that's damaged. They're trying to escape. They get to the probe. You've got the wonderful robots, Star as well, which are really cool. You know, sort of like those Western sharpshooters with the, you
Yeah.
know, with
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
gun.
Yeah.
That's the like the two
That
fisted.
double gun, which I've seen somebody else use in another
They use
movie.
that in Brave Star. Remember the toy line Brave Star?
That's where, because I'm like, I know I had that toy, or
Yeah.
a gun like it. It was a water pistol, and it would shoot water out one end and the other end like that. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I've seen the design somewhere. But the other thing is, they remind me of Twiki, the little army of
Oh yeah,
guys.
like a tall
Taller
Twinkies.
Twinkies.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, and
that,
then when they were all falling, I'm like, oh, Twinkie, come on, man,
yeah.
what are you
Boy, they
doing?
had a lot of those. They blew up a
They had
lot of
lots of them.
those.
I'll tell you about the merchandise. I don't know if we're going to wrap it up about the movie because there is a
Yeah.
lot of merchandise tie-in.
Oh
But
my
overall,
gosh, is there ever? Yeah.
I didn't see it, and I'm thinking back because it was such a crowded Christmas season. You're only home from school for about a week or two, and if you want to go, because out here it would snow, so you're like, oh, let's go to a movie. And I think it was. I know I saw Star Trek. I know I saw 1941. I didn't see Flash Gordon, but I know there was Black Hole was playing. It was playing in the crappy theater. It was like
Yep.
the good theater got the really cool movies, and then down the road there was this other. They would always get the Disney movies.
Yep.
And it's like if it was playing there, you didn't want to go there because the seats were horrible and you didn't want to sit there for hours and like, oh my God, my back is killing me. But I think that's why I didn't go see it as well. But I do recall a lot of merchandise, so much so that on Christmas of that year, I'm pretty sure they were these snap together models because I did have a Maximilian and I did have a Vincent because I remember back in the day you had to soak the decals in water. And I remember putting the eyes on Vincent, and I remember Maximilian was cool because he had these little flaps. He didn't stand
Yes.
well. It was a pain to make him stand because he had these two peg legs, but it was a really great design. That red, that red visor type of almost
Yes.
looked like Boba Fett's helmet in a weird way, but he was really cool. And even Vincent was a little round, chubby little robot, but he was also a cool design as well. So the robots, great special effects on that bit. I can't
I
complain.
think that's what a lot of people just remember. And you know, the amazing thing, well, not amazing,
Yeah.
but you know, they levitate, you know, they fly.
They
So
do.
the
Yeah.
wire work, you know, these things are not light. They're not just like made out of plastic.
No, I figured it was a guy on a ramp or something underneath off
They
camera.
sometimes they did that, but they also had, you know, wires, and you can sometimes see the
I saw the
work,
wires. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's pretty good for what they do. And
Oh
we
yeah.
should
It's
before
that
we
scene in the greenhouse. Towards
yes,
the end when they're falling, you'll
yes,
see the actress has a big wire
yeah.
off of. I'm like,
Um,
digitally, they go transfer that now. They could take that right
Yeah,
out.
easy. I could do that it now practically with our level of special effects. Before we talk a bit more about the merchandise, and they were,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they were MPC who brought out those models.
Yeah, it was MPC because they made the models for like the Star Wars
Star Wars,
bands.
yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely
had
right.
all those. Yeah.
Well, let's
Snap
just
type.
talk the ending because obviously they go. Our heroes that are left end up going into the black hole,
Yeah.
and what do we see? We see this weird sort of mind trip of going into the black hole where you end up seeing Dr. Hans Reinhardt flying around. Then he comes together with Maximilian, and then you see him inside Maximilian, and then you see Maximilian. It's like Dante's Inferno, which they refer to in the movie. He's on this hill, and there's all these, like, I don't know, are they demons flying? And then all of a sudden you see an angel flying towards this stained glass window. And then you see the probe at the end heading towards a new world. So you assume they all survive, but it's a bit ambiguous or what's going on. So, and I've got to say, the novel, the only thing that I can find in my collection, I had a few things I'll talk about, is the novel, by, who do you think it's by?
Alan Dean Foster.
You win a prize.
He wrote every freaking novelization back in the 70s.
And I've got to say, this one's interesting because see how it's got actually color.
Color photo.
No, this is the color cover.
Oh, on the inside?
Yeah, look, see how it's a color.
Oh, that is, normally you didn't get that. It's just white.
Actually, that reminds me. The opening, where you see that grid of the black hole, the green sort of vector grid, that to that point was the largest ever computer sequence put on film. Up to that point.
Didn't know that.
So they were doing a lot of stuff. They
no, they were, and this is before Tron, so maybe they were.
Yeah, they were going to get John Dykstra. They were trying to get him, so they had to come up with their own, sort of like a motion control system and everything like that.
Who built the models for it? It wasn't Doug Trumble?
No, it wasn't. It was all Harrison Ellenshaw's team, but they were really good. The model work.
Oh yeah, I thought this was really
anyway,
good.
So there's the black hole novelization.
So how does it end in the book?
So in the book, basically Alan Dean Foster was saying, there's a lot of inconsistencies. Can I sort of wrap them up or use a bit of science to work it out? So in the end, actually what happens is Vincent, Dr. McRae, Dan Holland, and Pizer sort of merge into one being. So they sort of have separate consciousness, but are sort of individual, and it's all weird.
Like a cosmic threesome.
Well, with a robot, so maybe a foursome. I don't know, but anyway. So it's a little bit weird, but it's definitely worth reading the book because it's.
This was not based on any prior thing. This was an original Disney script.
Yes.
Because it's like, how did that get greenlit? Because I mean, they must have sat around and gone, "Hey,
I think they didn't really know how to end it." However, Whitman brought out some comics. It was 4
comic books. No, I remember the comic books. They were out there. The adaptation.
So they only did like 4 episodes, 4 editions.
Issues.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. And the first 2 were the movie, and then the remaining were Beyond the Black Hole.
No way. They did a sequel?
Yeah, so sort of where they found out, we found out that they survived. There was a different version of Hans Reinhardt there, sort of like a doppelganger. Kate McRae's father was there. It was all.
Oh, that's cool.
So they did that. I had as a child, and I remember as soon as the film finished, my mum said, "Oh, would you like something from the movie?" Because I really enjoyed it. So I had the Golden Book did the movie storybook, which I am so bummed that I can't find.
How did it end of the book? How did
the same, them just going, and they sort of like them saying, "Oh, we've made it through, and look, we're here to discover new worlds." So that's what they were going to do. But I had, and I still love it. It was I think it was through Whitman as well, but it was like one of the press out. I don't know if you remember these, but they were, like probably about $1.25. They were press out books, and what you could do, press out the cardboard pieces, and you can make a model of the Cygnus, and you can make a model of the Palomino. It's like insert.
Yeah. I had something like.
And they had the control room with all those amazing colors, and you had little cutout little people. I had one from Return of the Jedi as well, and Star Wars.
I'll tell you, I know that Mego. I think it was Mego made toys.
It was Mego. Mego released about 6 million. little action figures, 3 3/4 action figures, because famously they passed on Star Wars, and I
No,
felt
but
like
they
they
also
thought,
had that year the Star Trek ones too. They had the same little motion picture 3 3/4.
they were
Oh, they
Ertl.
were tiny one. I do remember Mego made Star Wars, not Star Wars. I'm sorry, Star Trek. The motion
They
picture
made
had a line of toys, and it
they
just
also
seemed
made Buck Rogers and
Buck Rogers. That's maybe what I'm thinking of. They were like
yes,
crappy. They were nowhere near as good as the Star Wars one. They were
yeah, they
very
painting, but they had better
the painting.
articulation.
Yeah, it was really dull. They didn't have a lot of features on them and stuff.
Yeah, so they released figures. They also released 12-inch
They
figures.
did.
And yeah, and if you ever
Wow,
see them, they also released ones for Moonraker. And if you've ever seen those, what happens?
Moonraker.
They use a different plastic for the head than the body, and their head
Oh,
all turn gray. So
I was
if you
gonna
ever
say,
see
yeah,
them, they're all gray and they look like they're
monster.
dead.
Right.
I'll put a picture
Yeah,
up
wait,
of
to go
them.
back to who did they make in Moonraker? James Bond. Did they make Jaws?
And Jaws. And I think they did
Oh,
Holly Goodhead as well.
Holly Goodhead. Yeah. Hmm,
So
interesting. So wait, so there's a 12-inch Mego Maximilian?
they not that I'm aware of. They did the
Oh,
model
that
kit
would have been a
though.
cool. That would
I
have been
know.
cool.
The model kits you mentioned,
Yeah.
they did trading cards.
Yep.
They did board games. There was 2 board
Oh, they
games.
did puzzles. I know there was puzzles out
There
there. I remember
was.
seeing that. The
There was
board game.
also a lunchbox and a
Yeah.
thermos.
Lunchbox.
They
I'm
did
trying
a
to remember.
lot of
Oh,
merchandise.
I'm pretty sure there was a pinball machine.
So
Williams or Stern,
there
maybe.
is a pinball machine, but it's not tied to the movie.
Oh, I was gonna say I remember playing a game called I remember the Meteor pinball machine, definitely.
That
But
was
I
tied. That was that was
Yeah. Sean Connery was on the glass. I remember seeing Sean Connery and Martin Landau, maybe.
no.
No, it
That's
said
that
Meteor.
no. All it is the meteor and the rockets heading towards it.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the poster.
Yeah. So
It's
that
a little jumbled.
so there was lots of merchandise and
This was
there was a record on tape as
well, there was no
well.
video games yet, right? There's no
No,
Atari.
there wasn't anything. I think they did one maybe a bit later on, but that was loosely based on it. And today they released in the last maybe 5 or 6 years some I think Vincent, Old Bob, and Maximilian
No, they
figures.
did. They did because I remember telling you for some reason here in the States over at Walgreens, which is a
That's
pharmacy.
right, because they had the Rocketeer.
I
as
saw
well, I
them.
think.
Yeah, it was all the Disney ones because I picked up the Rocketeer because I love the Rocketeer. But I remember they had Nightmare Before Christmas, Tron, Rocketeer, and then they did the Black Hole, and it was Maximilian and Vincent, and it was a 2-pack. And I was like, what the hell are they making this crap for? And I was telling you, and you go, oh, could you get that if you see it? I'm like, really?
And
But
did you
seen
get it?
since. No, it was like there was one in the store. I'm like, why did
Yeah.
they even make this? I don't know, but is it
So-
really a big aftermarket? I mean, are these toys going for a
They
lot of
sell,
money?
I mean, like the carded little small figures are, like $80 to $100. They're probably a bit more
Really?
popular. You can get the 12-inch ones I've seen for, $100, $150, but obviously they're not as impressive
Yeah.
because of the degradation to the face.
You know what's weird? Going back to the movie real quick, the
Yeah.
direction that Maximilian Schell does in one scene just always stands out to me. I'm like, was he just making this up as he goes?
Is that when he
Because-
goes?
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say. As he's walking across the thing, he does one of these like Jim, Christopher Lloyd does in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He bangs his head like that, but he's supposed to be playing a mentally disturbed person.
Yes.
But maybe that was his action to say, "Look, I'm having a nervous breakdown." I do
I
that.
think, well, he was like that. I thought his performance was really good. He
reminded me of a crazy Dr. Zarkov from Flash Gordon. That was
God rest his
movie
soul.
season.
God rest his soul.
Just passed away the other day.
Yeah, just a few days ago. So it was nominated for 2 Academy Awards for Best Visual
What?
Effects and Best Cinematography.
Well, what did it lose to? Star Trek?
79. It lost to Alien for visual effects.
See, again, I mean, that's an impressive year. I mean, just look at these movies. I mean, visually, for God's sakes, I mean, you got Alien over here, you got Star Trek the motion picture here, you've got the Black Hole here, and then you're gonna get that Nightmare Flash Gordon. What it's I mean, there was a lot of crazy drugs going on in Hollywood right around then.
It was
Visually,
fun times, fun times. So I'd certainly
sometimes Studio
recommend.
54.
Yeah,
What?
there's the Blu-ray available, and probably the best place is Disney Plus to see it.
Disney Plus, it did a
Don't
really
get
good.
don't get duped by the overture. Just watch it for or listen to it for 2 minutes and then get into.
Is there any special features on the Blu-ray? Like to make.
I don't know. I don't have it. I unfortunately we don't. I
Oh,
don't think
I
it was
thought you
released in
had it.
Australia on Blu-ray. So
All
but
right.
fingers crossed we'll get a special edition. I should say quickly before we wrap up, Joseph
Yeah.
Kosinski, who directed Tron Legacy,
Yeah.
was attached to do a like a reboot of it. So
Really?
yeah, but I think that's sort of fallen through. If you watch Tron Legacy, you'll see there's the kid, Flynn Jr. has got a black hole poster in his room. So,
Hmm. No, it's an interesting movie conceptually. I don't know. Maybe the title doesn't fit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think if you're interested in visual effects and old school visual effects, that there's a great shot where you look and it's it's of the funeral of the one of the robots. And you have a look and you're focused on them and there's a matte painting here and you can see Dan Holland standing there, but he's actually just a freeze frame cut out. Like it's really interesting to have a look at how they piece all this stuff together.
I was going to say there's another scene in there very reminiscent of Logan's Run when he wraps up the Yvette and he's going through the laser things. It's like
when they're about to turn her into one of the androids.
Yeah. And I was like, oh wow, they just ripped that off with the laser beams coming down and stuff. And one of the things I don't like with the old shows, Star Wars didn't do it. Is when they would fire the laser beams. I mean, it's done after in post, but it's like sometimes it doesn't even match up with the gun.
I felt like the laser beams in here weren't as well integrated as they were in Star Wars.
No, God, no. Star Wars, he thought they really came out of that gun the way they would hit, but these were just kind of like they don't go in perspective. Star Wars, like they would shoot the stormtroopers.
Which is funny because you think Disney animators would know how to do that sort of stuff.
And that was 2 years prior. So you're thinking, oh wow, they did it on a shoestring budget. We got Disney money. Yeah, we should be able to do it better, but no, it is what it is. So
that's our look back at the black hole. Mitch, how can you look back at some of our other maybe sci-fi episodes that we cover in Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure?
Oh, Ed, it is easy as just, I don't know, saddling up with a country sounding robot, and I don't know what that was all about, but sure, all you got to do is hit the subscribe button below, and you too can go into a black hole into the past and find out things. As Ed and I have now this will be our 80th episode. It says so on the YouTube. It says 80 shows. You can go watch all 80 of them. They're always fun just to watch me get killed every week. Sometimes Ed gets killed. Ed's got some catchphrases which we didn't even know about, but he's a cult figure. Who knows?
Like the black hole. I am a cult figure. That's
Ed is the black. I'm his Maximilian. He's my Vincent.
That's right.
Do your head. Do that. Exactly. We're the Wayne's World of bad movies.
That's right.
You look like Wayne with the hat.
I do have a bit of that. Oh no, I've got my Epcot. See, I've got my Epcot.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, I couldn't get. I didn't.
And I've got my Disney. See, I thought I'd tie it in.
Oh, I'm like, what's he going for today?
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, party on there, Ed.
Yeah. All right, this is Ed Dollister.
And there's Mitch Blackholic. Blackholic. Anyway.
I see what you did there. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.